Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, how you doing out there? Hope you can see me. Hope you can hear me. Um, we'll just wait here a little bit as we get started. Cool. How you doing? Good. Well, it's really good to be here right now. Let me see here. Hang on a sec here. Gotta. I'm sharing the post. Share the post on the page, and yeah, we are. Cool. Gonna teach all my brothers and sisters out there. It's really good to be here, and I wish I could really see you. I wish I could be in your communities, and your presence, and it'd be awesome. One day that's gonna come. One day it's gonna come. Um, my name is Gene Tagaban. I'm with the Native Wellness Institute, and we are on, I think it's like week 42 of our Power Hours program number 200 and let's say 40 something. And we, as with the Native Wellness Institute, we put these programs out because of the closure of the pandemic and everything was closed up. And so we just felt that we needed to do something and to connect. Usually we'd be traveling to your communities and facilitating workshops or gatherings or performances or storytelling or helping out the community in some way. But since we weren't able to, we were put together these power hours, and so it's just at least we have this way. So my name is Gene Tagaban. My Tlingit name is Gayao. I'm of the Duck Dane Ton Raven Freshwater Socket Clan from Hoona, Alaska. The child of a Wishkatan Eagle Shark Clan from Juan in Juneau, Alaska. I'm Cherokee, Tlingit, and Filipino, and I tell people that I'm a Cherokee Tlingitino. And one of the things that I'm really into, man, is about land acknowledgement. So right now, I just want to say is that I am coming to you from this land of the Coast Salish people, specifically on the land of the Puyallup here in Tacoma, Washington. The original name Tahoma, Tahoma, and in the township of Ruston, and that's where I am coming from you right now. And I just want to ask you just to, where are you from? And what are the lands that you are on? To just give some acknowledgments to that, to acknowledgments to them as well. And so I hope you could hear me okay. Somebody said I'm muted. I hope not. I think I can get sound off my unit right here. I'm paying attention to this as well. And so just to get that acknowledgement. And so as we're given that acknowledgement, just introduce yourself in the chat, who you are, your tribe, your people, your ancestors, and the land of the ancestral lands that you're coming from. They may not even be your own ancestral lands, but whose people are you on and where you're coming from. So I'm just going to share a little bit of breath. And just take this time to acknowledge yourself, acknowledge your people, acknowledge your ancestors, and put it all in the chat right now. And that's a great way that we can communicate with each other in that way. Cool. So many names out there who are acknowledging themselves, and again, just to take that time to acknowledge the land that you're on, and we can just say, just use with our breath, or just take some tobacco, drop some tobacco or a little bit of food, and drop that down, or and just about knowing who you are. So I got you here for just an hour, and I really appreciate you coming in, and I just wanted to talk about some passion, purpose, and presence. And as I talk about passion, purpose, and presence, think in your own personal experience. Individuals in your life who just encompass this passion, and knew their purpose, and when they walked into a room, they just had this presence about them. Think about that, and what was it about them, and that comes to mind. I can't help but think about my grandmother, my grandfather, my great grandmother, and them. Even some of them I didn't even know. I have pictures of some of my old relatives on my Cherokee side. And with that, and I have a few names I wrote down before here. It's like there's another one, Nora Donhauer, where I grew up from, and she was a writer and a teacher of the culture up there in Alaska, in Southeast Alaska, and the passion that she had for writing and the word and the language was just like, have you ever been in that presence of somebody, and it just just encompasses you, and it just brings you in and sucks you in, and almost there's this terms like the dukunuku about covering you with that clamshell, or that blanket of ancestors, that ancestral wisdom, and that was her. She would just almost blanket you with that wisdom. And Elizabeth Peradovich, there's a day, I think we just went through that, and she was stood up for the rights of Native people, stood in front of the people themselves as a woman, and spoke up for the people in Alaska. And that was the time up there in Alaska, Southeast Alaska, where they actually had signs on the doors where no dogs and no natives allowed. They actually put dogs before even natives. No dogs and no natives allowed. And she spoke up on that. And then and another woman who has presence, Georgiana Lincoln, who she's Athabascan, and she was a senator, and she I think she was like the first woman senator, Native woman senator in the States. Yeah, and she's still around today. And every time I see her, she just encourages me. I see her, and she's full of stories and encouragement and positivity and presence and power. And at the same time, she's willing to acknowledge her, how she's feeling at that moment. She might be feeling a little bit of down, or a little bit sadness, or whatever it is, And she's with Georgiana. I love talking with her too, because there's authenticity about her, And so think about those individuals in your life right now. See them in your mind, hear them speaking, and maybe when you're in their presence, they just elicit a feeling within yourself. And what is one word that you would use to describe these people, these individuals, these influencers in your life? Because that's what they've done. They influenced you. Because anybody who has that passion, they walk this world with passion, purpose, and presence. They influence you without even trying. It's just being in their presence, and that's what their presence is. So what is one word, if you were going to describe these people, that you would use to describe them? My grandmother, my great-grandmother, she was, she's just so many things, but the thing that I remember about her was my great grandmother was just beautiful. In her old age, she's a beautiful human being. Not only just a beautiful human being, but she had a heart. I tell people in a story that she had a huge heart, and she would sit there and sew regalia for the people, be it a vest or a robe, or be it a tunic or some moccasins. I remember I went to a community, and I think it was in Wrangell, or it might have been even in Petersburg, where my grandmother came from. That's where she lived. That she would, and she was excited. Said, "I really have to show you something. I have to show you something." And so I went out to the hallway, and laid out on this table was a beautiful button robe. And I was looking at it, going, "Oh my goodness!" It had raven on there, and it had the salmon on there. And she told me, "Your grandmother, great grandmother, made this for my grandmother." And I took a look at it, and I just felt it. I just could feel the presence, her presence. Her hands were on that regalia. And I turned it over, and I took a look at all the stitching. And so with my grandmother, my great grandmother, she had presence, and she had and she was just love, and she was beautiful. So what is that one word that you would describe? You would describe that your that person, and think about that one word, and maybe there's 2 or 3 words, and write it down. Again, with Nora Donhauer, she was just passionate about her work and about the Tlingit people. There's a word resilient here that just came up. Yeah, they were resilient. Our people were resilient. And I think about all these people, and who. There's another individual, her name's Cookie Rose. She was Athabascan too, and she was just so full of humor. She was humorous, and she brought that humor and that love into the work that she did with the people. Another one that that grew up, and some of these people just like almost they raised me in this work, was Priscilla Stella Peel. And Cookie Rose has since passed on, and so has Priscilla. And Priscilla, she was just, Priscilla is definitely a trickster. Any of you who know Priscilla, who she is, she was a trickster. And she would just love you, but she was like, she would tell you how it is, man. She would just tell you how it is. And just straight up. So she was very honest. She was very truthful. And sometimes that to be honest and truthful, man, it could just stab you. But it was a good way, because she was like going, and because you know it, don't you? Another trainer, teacher of mine, like a grandma, her name was Lois Thane, and she has since passed on as well. But she was, I apprenticed under her. And we traveled throughout Canada, up through Alaska, and she was a teacher of awareness of healing, definitely healing. And I can't, and she worked with Tassie Nelson. Tassie Nelson was another person in my life, and they were both from Canada. And so Lois Thane comes to my mind. And Lois was just love, man. She was just love. She just loved her work and who she was. And and for some reason, she had the ability to see the gifts in people, because she saw the gifts in me. And I'm grateful for her for that. And then she just grabbed me, and she just traveled. She apprenticed me and took me to all these communities, throughout, again, First Nations up in Alaska, and just taught me, mentored me. And so I'm forever grateful. I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for these individuals. And some of the men, Matthew Fred, who's definitely a spiritual teacher, a mentor to me as well. Paul Jackson, Paul Jackson, he felt that, everything was like Tlinket. Everything should be Tlinket. The White House should be a Longhouse, and the president and vice president should be Raven and Coyote. And he was always telling stories about those things, and Paul Jackson and Chris McCua, and I can't help but mention Chris McCua, and he taught me about dancing, how to dance and have that presence, and how to tell stories as well. And he was a great storyteller himself. So these are just a few of the individuals in my life. And think about those individuals in your life. Who were your teachers, your mentors, your influencers, who lived with that passion, that purpose, and had a presence about them. And because to this day, I still ask myself the questions when life becomes a challenge, difficult, hard, sad, hurting, grieving, or you need to make a decision on what to do. I still ask myself, in the little voice in my mind is, what would Nora do? What would Elizabeth Paradovich do? What would Lois do? What would Tassie do? How would Matthew Fred deal with this, or Chris? And I'm always asking those ancestors, they're all ancestors now, what would they do? What would they say? How would they handle this situation? And I'm grateful again for them. Because I see somebody says they want me to turn it up. I'm just going to speak louder, because sometimes I just need to speak louder. And so with that, it's just, who are those in your life? And when you have those difficult times, ask the question, what would they do? How would they do things? And some would say, I'd follow my heart, and other ways. And so many are put on there watching. They want me, let me see, they were heroes, superheroes, they were mentors. They were resilient, they persevered. And just to put that in here, but write them down for yourself. So one individual I really want to talk about, who had this passion, this purpose, and definitely had a presence, his name is Walter Sobolov. And I'm not going to try to say what clan he was, but he is Tlinket. And he lived to be 105 years old. 105. And one of the biggest pieces of advice that Walter gave me, I had the ability, I had the opportunity to travel with Walter across the country. And a funny story with that, I was with a theater company, the Nakahiti Theater Company. We're doing a collaboration with Coyote, tells us stories. With Larry Littlebird. So we're heading down to New Mexico, and Walter was our elder. And so we're on the plane, we fly into Seattle. From Seattle, we fly down into Phoenix. We had to change planes in Phoenix. And Walter at that time was probably about, 85 or so. And so everybody gets onto the plane. And nobody sees Walter, but we figure he's on the plane someplace. We all depart off the plane in Albuquerque. No Walter. And we're just going, oh my goodness, where's Walter at? Didn't anyone see Walter? We lost our elder. Nobody had any idea where he was. And this was before the time of cell phones. So we just couldn't call him up or call somebody else up. We had to get on a pay phone, or we had to borrow a phone to use and call up Alaska. Has anyone seen Walter? Has he called? Has he checked in? Nobody has seen Walter, our elder. And so that night, we tried to make calls, and Walter's son was with us too. Walter's son was with us at that time too. And so the next morning, we all gathered up. Early in the morning, we gathered. We need to make a plan. How are we going to find Walter? And just as we're sitting there and we're making that plan, suddenly Walter comes walking in with his little suitcase, not even a suitcase, with his little bag with all his clothes in there for like 2 weeks. You know how those old elders are. They don't need much. They just need the toothbrush, if they have teeth, toothbrush, be able to shave, and shower, clean themselves up, and a few clothes, and they can travel around for a whole month, probably just a little bag like this, and he came in with a little bag, and he comes walking on in. He goes, "Oh, you won't believe what happened to me. I missed the plane." We go, "Yeah, we know that, Walter." Oh, and so I was looking at all the artwork in the airport in Arizona there, in Phoenix. Oh, and I just lost track of time. I missed the plane. So I had to figure out how to get over here. So I took a bus. I've been on the bus all night long. And you won't believe all the interesting people you meet on the bus. Holy! But I made it okay, and here I am. Let's go out for breakfast. And everyone's just standing there and watching Walter. And Walter, he told me this story this one time about he was escorting another Tlingit lady, first time ever being on a plane, and she was terrified. And Walter was holding her hand, and she's just squeezing his hand, and then suddenly she sees the flight attendant get up and do her thing. You see, this here elder couldn't speak English very at all. So she watched the flight attendant doing this. And the grip on Walter's hand loosened up. And in Tlingit, she said to Walter, "I'm okay now. I'm okay." Because that nice lady there, I know we'll be okay because she just blessed the plane. Walter is always telling stories like that. And again, the biggest piece of advice that Walter told me is take care of the old man you're going to be. Take care of the old person you're going to be. And so I want to talk more about Walter Sobolov. And I really want to show you this right here. Because the Sea Alaska Corporation up in Southeast Alaska, they put together this Southeast traditional tribal values. And this was based off of what Walter put together too. He was a huge part of this. So I don't know if you got, is it backwards? I hope it's not backwards. It probably is. So it's the Southeast Tribal Values. And the first part, it says, our way of life. And when Walter shared this, and this is his traditional way of, putting it all down here. And I usually have this hanging up on the ceiling right here above me because I want to be able to see this all the time and refer to it all the time. And let me ask you this: what do you have around you that you can see all the time, that you can refer to, that helps you? So one of the things on here, I'm going to go through this as many times as I can. And Tina said, "Yeah, I know it's backwards." And so we'll deal with it. The first thing here that Walter has on here is discipline and obedience to the traditions of our ancestors. Discipline and obedience to the traditions of our ancestors. Now, what the heck does that mean? What does that mean? Well, first of all, it's like, for me, it's to have that discipline and to obedient to the traditions is to take time. We need to take time to learn. And part of that passion is have the passion to learn about our traditions. But have the passion to learn about who you are. I am Cherokee, Tlingit, and Filipino. That is my heritage. My wife, Ruby, she's Aani, Grovan, Assiniboine, and Northern Italian. And to take time to learn about who are your ancestors. You see, again, many people have heard me say this, that we've been dreamt into existence. And to be obedient to those traditions. And those traditions that come from the land, that come from the water, that come from the mountains. You see, they are our ancestors, the land, the water, and the mountains. The traditions of our dance, our songs, our stories, our way of grieving. You see, because in place of all of our traditions as indigenous people, and I want to say this too, not only native people but tribal people, because we are all tribal people. It doesn't matter if you're white, you're black, you're native, or you're Asian. We all come from a place of tribes. We all come from a place of the earth. The earth. If you go back far enough in your heritage, we all come from that place. And the obedience and reverence that we have of those traditions. And we all have our way of living, of grieving as well, of expressing joy, of laughter, of celebration, of ceremony. And what are those? And many of you may not know because you were adopted out or you lost track of your heritage. That's why so many Ancestry.com, 23 or 24 and Me is so popular right now because so many people are trying to find out about their traditions. And I like what Cassandra just wrote down here, culture is prevention. You know, culture is life. Culture is that direction. So learn about who you are. And if you're not sure about who you are and where you come from, learn about the land. Learn about what is your connection to the earth. And to make it even as simple as what is your connection, and you're starting off, what is your connection when you grab that glass of water? What's your connection? See, water is a tradition. And you can learn so much discipline and obedience from the water. Learn about the land. The very air that we breathe. The very air that we breathe. Learn about the air. Where does it come from? And to learn about the air, we have to learn about the trees. The trees in the area. The directions of the sun. Which way does the sun come up? For me, the sun comes up over here in the east, directly behind me. So if you don't know where you come and your culture, your tradition, your heritage, learn about the land and learn about the earth. But if you do know, take some time. Just take some time and just learn one thing, because try to learn your whole cultural, your traditional background would be too overwhelming, and you would set yourself up for failure. You would sabotage yourself because it would be so overwhelming. So just learn one thing. One thing. Start off by just taking the feather and learn about the feather. It's interesting, I was thinking about this feather just last night. I've been having difficult time sleeping. I injured my back a little bit. But it's interesting with this feather. I think it was the Greeks. When somebody passes on, when they pass on, and they weighed the body, when that individual passes on, they are lighter. They are lighter they've lost weight. Just a fraction of amount of weight, but they've lost weight. And I think it was the Greeks who said that they measured the weight that they lost by the weight of a feather. By the weight of a feather. And oftentimes it's just, I could pick up this feather and I could hold it like this. By the weight of a feather. But in this feather that is so light, there is so much to learn. And I can't help but think about the day my mother told me this one time. The day my mother told me this one time that she was walking through the forest and they were about to cross a creek. She was raised in Oklahoma, Xena, Oklahoma. And she was just about to walk across this creek and her grandmother fell into my mother's arms. And my mother was maybe, 12, 13, 14? Just a young one. Fell into her arms. And she had a stroke, a heart attack. And her grandmother, who raised my mom, died right there in my mother's arms. And she held her grandmother, my great-grandmother, in her arms for a couple hours before they came to look for her. But I wonder, that weight of the feather, where does it go? I know it goes somewhere. You see, I have a belief that as my mother laid there holding my grandmother, see, my grandmother was a healer. My grandmother would be there when people would come from so many miles away to come see my grandmother, to help her, heal her. And I have a belief that my grandmother, with that passion she had to learn about the medicines, to learn about the plants, the traditions and the ceremonies. And her purpose in life was to heal. That spirit and the weight of that feather, my mother took that on. You see, my mother, one of those ones who I ask in my life, what would she do? When times get tough, I ask that question, what would my mom do? What would my mom do? You see, my mother is a nurse as well. And once you're a nurse, you're always a nurse. You're a nurse, you're 24/7. And people are always calling up the house, going over to the house, calling up my mom. I remember the times when we had a neighbor they were like very deep in their alcoholism and their violence and trauma. And the kids would run over to the house because their mother would get beat up. And without hesitation, my mother would go over there. And take care of her. And oftentimes she'd say, you stay home. But I'd be right on her heels. I'd be right there on her heels. And I'd be, and then my mom would see there and say, okay, hold this bandage. I'd hold the bandage right there on this here lady who's bleeding from the head. And my mother's taking care of her. And she didn't care if a drunk person came out of the back or whatever. Even if they did, my mother, she had that presence. And she would just have them, just sit down right there. You get out of here right now. That was my mother. But I believe that weight of that feather, oftentimes, again, it's like not much there, but that weight of that feather got passed on to my mother. And I believe part of that got passed on to me as well. And even that weight of that feather, the weight that we have here, and following That's a big responsibility. You know, all those who mentored me, all those, Walter Sobolov took time for me. My mother took time for me. It was like Lois Thane, Priscilla Peel, Cookie Rose, Georgiana Lincoln, all these, Matthew Fred, Chris McCool, Paul Jackson, Doc Klein, Donna Walk, all these people, all these elders, they took time for me. All the weight of the feather, and passed it to me. And to me, holding this feather, I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to take some time to learn about myself, my purpose, my passions. And when I walk into a room, what is the presence that I bring into the room? All from the weight of a feather. There's so much here. So those of you who do not know your culture, your traditions, and even if you do know who you are as your heritage, start off not trying to learn the whole thing, but just the little bits. Because if you just grab a feather and you simply say, oh, that's an eagle feather, there's so much more here. There's so much more here. And you can spend a lifetime learning about the feather and what it means to your people and what it will mean to you, or the drum, or these medicines. So when we talk about discipline and obedience of the traditions of our ancestors, just learn, just take little steps, because again, the whole bigger picture can be overwhelming. And I know that because I get overwhelmed all the time. And when I get overwhelmed, what do I do sometimes? I'll be honest with you, sometimes when I get overwhelmed with stuff, I will, instead of doing something, I'll do nothing. And that's one of my things I really need to take a look at in myself. And I get anxious, anxiety. I start talking negative talk in my mind. And so that's when I need to get up and take some action and do something. So Walter Sobolov, again, getting back to the traditions, traditional values that he wrote down and he lived by. Discipline, obedience to the tradition of our ancestors. Respect for self, elders, and others. That respect for self, elders, and others. You know, it's one of those things, I could be so negative with myself sometimes. And that negative self-talk. And maybe many of you heard me say this, that and how many of you are really hard on yourself? And if you're hard on yourself, and you talk negative to yourself, but you would not let anyone in this world ever talk to you in that way, but you allow yourself to talk to yourself in that way. I get there. And I get down on myself. And so that's why I have to get up, I have to move, I have to take some kind of action. I have to do something. And I'm going to throw this out there to Ruby, because she encourages me, because last night even, I was, helped me loosen up my back a little bit, go for a bike ride. And so I actually went for a bike ride. It was like around 9 o'clock at night. It was dark out. It was cold out. And but still, just to get that fresh air going through my lungs and breathing. And one of the best things that you can do is learn how to breathe. And again, that's one of the traditions of our peoples too. All our peoples. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. We are people of the earth. And so it's like we just, to learn how to breathe, just take a deep breath. and learn about some breathing exercises and take some time for that, and do some little bit of research into it. There's plenty out there online, and I get sidetracked. Yeah, I'll be looking for something, find like a program or dog video or something like that where I'm actually, I need to be looking for something more healing for myself. But respect for self. I need to take care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And that means also in my mind, I need to have that quality communication. Have you ever heard this thing? The quality of our communication is equal to the quality of our lives. And that means the quality of our communication to ourselves. Because each and every one of you right now, you're talking to yourself. The little voice in your mind, yes, the little voice that said, what little voice? How do you know I have a little voice? Because we all have a little voice, and we're talking to ourselves. And sometimes I've heard so many people that say, I cannot tell that voice to shut up. That is why it is so valuable to learn a song from your tradition. A song, music. Music is medicine. Because when the voice gets too loud and just won't shut up, sing. Sing to yourself. Learn one of your traditional songs and sing. And fill your mind and your spirit with that. Sing. That's part of learning your traditions and your culture as well. Learn a song. One song. Or even part of a song. And that will get you started. Learn a song and sing to yourself. And you learn about that respect for yourself. Respect for self. And that respect, and again, that respect for elders and others. But it starts off with that respect for self too. Some of these here values as well is respect for nature and respect for property. Respect for our nature, our property out there, the land, the earth, the water, the air, the trees, and the sky. And as I go down here on these ways of life, and for those of you who are just tuning in, this is the Native Wellness Institute Power Hour. My name is Tagaban, and right now I'm talking about our Southeast traditional values, tribal values, our way of life. And I know it's backwards. I know you're going to be put, hey man, that's backwards. I can't see it all right, and so that's okay. I'm going through it. But on this here list, on here, there's no numerical way or in order that they go, but on here is patience. Have patience. In order to learn our traditions and our values and to have discipline and obedience for our traditions and culture, we have to have patience. In order to learn about nature, we have to have patience. In order to have respect for self and learn about respect for self, how to take care of self, and have a positive self-image of yourself, it's going to take patience. And I know some of you go, patience, I want it right now. Yeah. My grandmother who died or passed on in her 90s, we're not really sure how old, she always says, try to learn something every day. Learn something every day. Look how old I am. Oh, it doesn't matter. You learn something every day. And just to have that patience in your life. And I have to practice that. Practice patience. All the time, because I want to learn it now. Heck, man, I've been playing, got my guitars right around me right here. I've been playing guitar for years. I still have so much to learn. I have to be, patience with that in order to learn how to do this. Have to take patience and be patient. Part of my wellness right now is get myself physically healthy. And the older I get, it's just like life has changed. And some of you might be in your 20s right now, 30s, 40s. You know, I remember when it was then, but I'm in my 50s now. And it's just my physical body is just different now. And it's an acceptance as well. An acceptance of where I'm at, of who I am. And so it's yeah, and I got to be patient with it. I just can't do things just like that now, you know, and get in shape just like that now. It takes more time. It takes more time. And somebody just posted, "I'm with you, old man." I know, I'm getting to be an old guy. I am getting to be an old guy. And I hope one day I'm going to be that elder. But I got to still keep moving. Got to keep moving. And that's about respect for self, too. Be patient with yourself. Take care of the old person you're going to be. Take care of the old person you're going to be. You know, and that brings you to have that strong mind, body, and spirit. Have that strong mind, body, and spirit. You know, and hey, somebody put that chart on here. Cool. Share it, please. And another thing, as we're coming, because there's one more thing I want to talk to you about too, is have fun, humor. Walter Sobolov, again, he turned to be 105 years old. I remember this one time I was traveling through New Mexico with him, and we were sitting in the back of the van. And we're on a dirt, bumpy road. I think we were going into Taos, New Mexico. And it was a beautiful, beautiful, clear nighttime sky. And I had Walter Sobolov sitting next to me, our elder. And he's back there, and he goes, "Oh, try this. It's really bumpy. Try this." And he starts going, and he was doing that just because what was going on was like the back of the van was bumping up and down like that because we're on a bumpy road, and it's kind of like grooved, and he goes, then he's going, "Oh, yeah. Now try that. And so Walter Sobolov, myself, and the elder are in the back of the van, both of us, as we're going, you know, and it's just one of those things about having fun and being able to laugh at yourself. And Walter was great at doing that, especially as he got older. Humor. We can't take life so serious all the time, you know, and especially in this time where we're at right now with what's going on in the world. Yes, we are in a pandemic. We're in this here social justice time. We're in this crazy world right now. We just are. But still, find the fun. Find the humor. Look for it. You'll find it if that's what you search for. If you're looking for anger, if you're looking to be just mad, you'll find it. You will. If you're looking to be just sad, you're going to find it. You know, this here one teacher of mine, he's a therapist. He goes, an individual came into my office this one time. He says, "Oh, I'm just depressed all the time. You know, I'm just like sad all the time." And then he says, "Okay, now show me." "What do you mean show me? Just show me." "Oh, sit down." So he sat there all scrunched over like this, frown on his face, you know, just like, and so he matched that. Sat there like that, as if he was a mirror, frowned on his face. And he said, Yeah, you're bummed out, you're depressed, you're sad. Yeah, it works. You sit like that. Yeah, I just tried it out, it works. You see, our attention goes, energy flows where our attention goes. Energy flows where our attention goes. Where is your attention focused on? Because your energy will flow towards that way. Is it flowed Is your attention focused on what you don't want in life? Or is it focused on what you do want in life? Because if your attention is focused on what you don't want in life, your energy is going to flow in that way. Now, if your attention is focused on what you do want in life, your energy will flow in that way. And is it going to happen right now? No. Be patient with it. Be patient with it. And I just got to laugh right now because it's because Ruby is so patient with me. She's very patient with me. And so it's like one of those, again, with her energy too. She's very patient with me. But I'm patient with her too as well. And we have fun with it. And we do have our disagreements. We don't fight. We battle. We battle. We use that word specifically. We battle. Because we have our disagreements. But we can come together and we have our agreements, and our joys. I just told Ruby the other day, is like during this pandemic, I'm really grateful that I'm spending the time with her. And so, again, have fun. Humor. Yeah. Oh, okay. What the heck? Ruby's watching this. She goes, I try. She tries to have patience with me. Thank goodness you're trying to have patience with me. I'm blessed. So look to those in your life. Now, I want you to focus on this as we come to a close. As we walk our lives, and those in our lives who have lived and influenced us, who have had that passion, that purpose, and have had presence, and they've influenced in our lives. And as we walk, for instance, wherever you're at right now, if they were sitting right next to you, and they were looking at you and watching you through their eyes, what would they say? What would they feel? What would they tell you? It was my teacher, Chris McCula. This one time I saw him just making animal movements inside the longhouse in Saxman. And I'd ask Chris, so what are you doing, Chris? He goes, shh, I'm asking the question. As he imitated being a hawk, or a frog, or the bear, or a wolf. And it was Chris. He said, I'm asking the question. What do they see? What do they see in me? Who am I? Who am I? What are my gifts? What do they see in me? Go and look through the eyes of someone else at yourself and see what they see. Go look through the eyes of another being at yourself and see what they see. And he told me, now go outside right now and do that. And so I went outside and I looked through the eyes. There's a beautiful cedar tree. I looked through the eyes of that cedar tree, tall. If you want to have patience, go be a tree. If you want to have patience, go be a tree. So I looked at myself through the eyes of that tree. And I asked him, who am I? What did it see? And an eagle flew above me. And way up there in the sky, I looked down at myself through the eyes of that eagle. What did I see through the eyes of that eagle? Looking at myself. And I zoomed down to the very blade of grass that I was about to step on. As I'm looking at that grass, looking up at me, asking the question, who am I? Who is this? What answers did I get? What did I see? And I went around that all day, and I still do that to this day. Look through the eyes of somebody else or a creature, or even the presence of a mountain looking down at me. These are traditional ways. This is our culture, our tradition of stepping into the shoes of somebody else and looking at yourself. So be the mountain, be the river, be the rain falling on your head, and asking yourself that question, who am I? Who is this? And what answers are you going to get? And if you had like an elder who looked up to, who you looked up to, who influenced you, and they have since passed on, maybe they're still here. Even if they're still here in physical form, have them sit next to you or in front of you or behind you and look at you through their eyes and then see what comes up. What do they see when they look at you? And as you're sitting there, what advice would they give them? What advice would they give you as they're looking at you? That eagle, what advice would that eagle give you as it's looking at you? The tree, the mouse, the blade of grass. The children in your home, when they're looking at yourself through the eyes of your children or grandchildren, what do they see? Do they see a person with passion, purpose, and presence? What do they see? And what would the advice of those children, those grandchildren, be for you? What would they say? What would they share? Chris shared this with me, and I went in and I told him what I saw. And to this day, I'm in my 50s, going into my late 50s now. I still do this. I walk into the forest, to the woods. I ride my bike, and every time I ride my bike, there's these trees that are looking down on me. And I look through their eyes, and I see myself riding by. And I wonder, what are they saying to me? What do they see? The sea lion. I still do this all today. I need to do it more. And I'm working on that too. It helps me it gives me perspective. And so I just want to leave that with you before, as we leave here at this power hour, to find your passion, your purpose, and to grow to have that presence. Because I know once we get that presence, I know that, for instance, Walter Sobolov, all these other teachers that I had, that you can walk into a room and change a room. You can change a space by just your presence when you walk into your room. But that's about knowing your presence, your purpose and your passions of who you are, and knowing yourself. But because before a person can change the space, first they need to change this space to change the space. Who are you? What is your passion? Search for it. What's your purpose? Because during your hard times, it'll get you through. It'll get you through. Got you to this point. Here you are. We made it through 2020, man. Right on, high five. We made it through 2020. We're going into 2021. You made it to this point. You can keep going. Find out who you are. So with that, thank you for taking this time with me just to have a discussion, to share. One day, this is with the Native Wellness Institute, our power hour. We provide this every day at noon, except for weekends, just to bring you some little bit of insight, joy, conversation, thoughts, story, music, a little bit of laughter, maybe some tears. But it's all healing. It's all healing. And we look forward to the day that we can come back to your community, or you can come to our gatherings, or we can go to the powwows, or to the celebrations, or to the potlatches together, And what a gathering and potlatch it will be, powwow it will be when we are able to gather together again. The joy. And the hugs. The hugs. We won't take those for granted. At least I hope not. And so with that, I want to thank you. And I think Robert Johnson is on for tomorrow. You know, that guy, storyteller. He's good looking too. Ole. So come and join us again. Native Wellness Power Hour, noon every day. Thank you so much. Blessings and wellness. Go out there and remember, you know, just go be the tree, go be the mountains, you know, and find those in your life who influenced you. One word to describe them, and what would they do in certain situations. Those who lived with passion, purpose, and presence. Those who lived with it. Find out, learn about them. Step into their shoes, and through their eyes, look at yourself. And what do they see? What advice would they give you? So until then, until next time, konatish, my friends, my relatives, blessings, blessings, blessings. Oi.